So to go after it and doing in some sort of controversy and saying, no, we need to bring this in. It's secret knowledge. It's false. It's a division. We reject it. So he says, look, stay away from conspiracy. Stay away from scandal. It says, avoid genealogies. Now, this could mean literally people arguing about genealogies and who is related to who and how that worked out. Or it could also be translated essentially bloodlines. In other words, trying to establish yourself as somebody because you had a certain bloodline. I'm of this lineage, or I'm of this forefather, or whatever it might be. He says, don't get wrapped up in it. Then he goes on, he says, dissensions, which is literally like essentially to cause evil, to descend, to bring down, or to cause evil in something that's good. He says, don't give into that. Don't be a part of it. Avoid it. Quarrels about the law. Check this out. For they are unprofitable and worthless. Quarrels about the law. He says, avoid those. Don't get wrapped up in it. He says it's worthless to quarrel about the law. As for a person who stirs up division, after warning him once and then twice, have nothing more to do with him, knowing that such a person is warped and sinful, and he is self-condemned. Again, we're not trying to harp on people. It's not like, oh, this is my favorite part of the Bible. Let's just talk about false teachers and how we don't want them. That's not what I'm saying. But it's still a serious topic. And he makes the point. Now, this is not the person that comes to your small group and says, I don't understand that. Could you explain that more? Or, hey, one time I actually heard that the book of Enoch was really valid. Could you help me out with that? Or, hey, did Jesus have a wife? All right, that's not the person we're talking about. That person's asking questions, right? That person's saying, can you help me? We're talking about the person that comes along and raises their hand in your small group and says, well, actually, right? I read a pamphlet once from, whatever, and so now I have the superior knowledge. And you just go, oh, no, that's a cool pamphlet, and we're glad for Rabbi so-and-so in Zimbabwe or whatever, but this is what the Scripture says. And so we're going to go ahead and stick with what the Scripture says. That's the warning. Thanks for sharing, but that's the warning. Next home group, their hand goes up. Well, actually, I was reading from this guru, and he said. And then you'd probably pull them aside afterwards and say, hey, you know what? That's twice that you've brought your opinions based on extra biblical sources, and you're not welcome to do that here. And he says if he does it a third time, he's out. He's gone. Which we don't really like, right? Because church. Like, you don't kick people out of church. If you kick people out of church, then how will they get churched and know to come to church? You can't do that. But if you look at like 1 Corinthians 5, every time it talks about kicking someone out, it's for a singular person. It's kind of dramatic. Paul puts it this way. He says, you deliver such a one to Satan. And the idea is this. For someone who's trying to walk with Jesus, and even for someone who's not sometimes, church can be a really great place, right? Because you're surrounded, for the most part, with a bunch of nice folks, right? It's free coffee. It's meals now and again. Everybody usually is kind of interested in what's going on in your life. They want to care about you. They want to help you, all those things. So when someone who, in this case, is labeled as warped, right? There's something wrong with them. They're twisted, is the idea there. So he says, for that person, they need to be put out. They need to not experience the blessings of church, the blessing of meeting with God's people. Because the brokenness that can occur from the being put out. Now, it's a little different now, right? Because in Rome, it's a bunch of home churches, and most of the believers, stands to reason, a lot of them knew each other, right? I mean, Paul's able to greet 28 people from Rome, and he had never even been there. So it's most likely that a lot of them knew each other, but they mostly just met in homes and different places like that. So nowadays, if you get put out of a church, like if someone says, hey, you can't come here anymore, well, you just go down the street, right? And you just have a different story, or you just, whatever it might be. But the Bible still says that what we're doing, our goal is this, to put someone out, not to shame them, but so they'll feel their shame. I know Jesus took our shame away, and I'm all in it. I'm all for it. But when we're walking in disobedience, we self-condemn. We do something to ourselves. And so our job as Christians is to say, you can't do that. It's for the protection of each other, right? Because it's brothers and sisters that are doing this. Not just elders, not just pastors or whatever, not leadership. It's us. to say, hey, I care too much about the people that are serving Jesus in my proximity to let you stir that madness up. So you're not welcome here. We don't rage on them. We're not like, you're stupid and so is your book. We don't do that. But we just say, hey, you can't do that. You can't come here. And typically, in my experience, which is not vast in that area, but in my experience, as soon as you approach someone with that, one of two things happens. They rage and leave, which is the typical, or they say, I didn't realize I was doing that. And I don't want to do that. And I don't want to not come to church. So can you help me to figure out how I cannot be divisive or how I can do these things? And there's great. And we've seen people that not at this church, but in other churches I've been at, I've seen people that got excommunicated and they came back and they realized, like, this is not what I wanted. This was not, the world is not what I wanted. And now that I just got a full plate full of it without any kind of Jesus on the side, I realize how bad it is because I don't have that comfort anymore. Again, it's not something we revel in, not something we're excited in, but it's something we're called to do for the good of our body and the good of the people that are doing those things.